We are live on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. I've still got about 5 minutes to go, so we'll start right at 9 o'clock then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phone number ending in 106. Could you please identify yourself for the record and let us know what matter you're going to speak on?
Phone number ending in 106 is Jody Tonkin. I am with the department and I may be providing testimony. Unsure at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Phone number ending in 658. Are you calling in for a specific matter?
Calling on behalf of taxpayer Namir Kalendos.
Oh, I don't have my list.
Okay, and phone number ending in 658. Could you please identify yourself again? I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you over the ringtone that was going on.
Taxpayer Namir Kalendos. I have a Nevada tax ID number if that is helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Kalandos. We have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, Kelly Langley. I see that you have your hand raised. Hi, Terry Upton. I see that you have your hand raised. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you could hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Tina, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the March Nevada Tax Commission meeting to order. Tina, could you please call roll?
Yes. Commissioner Witt,
Present.
Commissioner Wren,
Present.
Commissioner Rigby,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Bursey,
Present.
Commissioner Littman,
Present.
and Chairman DeVold.
I'm present. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask for any public comment. Tina, could you tell people how they can do that for me, please?
If you're on the telephone, you may dial *9 to raise your hand to give public comments, and you may need to dial *6 to unmute your telephones.
So is there any public comment that anyone would like to give that's not already on the agenda?
Just one moment. Let me see if anybody has their hand raised.
Thank you.
I don't see any public comment.
Okay, very good. Executive Director Young, would you please administer the oath?
Good morning, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. For your oath being provided today, by testifying before any matter heard today, you agree to tell the truth in these proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Young. Okay, at this point, next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes for January 25th. Is there any additions, corrections, or a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Brown, make the motion to approve.
I do have a correction to the minutes, if I may.
Yes, please.
On page 5, towards the middle of the page, the paragraph that starts with cigarette tax, there are the word allegation should be allocation in 2 places. And with that correction, I would second Commissioner Brown's motion to approve.
Commissioner Brown, do you accept those changes?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Got a motion and second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any commissioners opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Before we get too far into the agenda, I need to disclose that I've got a conflict of interest on something that's not on the consent calendar, but on item 4D1, and I will be abstaining from voting and not participating in the conversation. Golden Gate Petroleum is a large client of our financial institution, and I feel like I should not vote on that matter. So just heads up, our friend Commissioner Bursey has agreed to run that portion of the meeting for me. So thank you, Commissioner Bursey. Okay, at this point, item 3, the consent calendar. These are items, any item under column 3, A, B, C, D, E, or F. Are there any items that any of the commissioners would like to pull for further discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Commissioner Rigby, I would like to pull item 3B1, cpap.com.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other items?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't want to pull an item, but I want to mention an item. It's 3E1, living ecology. I would just mention that the page numbers on the settlement document are incorrect.
Thank you. We'll correct those. Thank you.
Commissioner Lippman would like to pull 3D1 and F3.
Okay, very good. Any other items? Could I get a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of item 3B1, D1, and F3?
Commissioner Witt, move to approve.
Commissioner Wren, second.
Got a motion and second to approve the consent calendar with those exceptions. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Any commissioner opposed? Okay, for those on the telephone or online, any item that wasn't called out, your item has been approved under the consent calendar. And you're free to continue to participate or leave as you see fit. Okay, first item is item B3B1, cpap.com, Commissioner Rigby.
my question on this one is, this is for durable medical goods, durable medical equipment, which is specifically exempt for sales tax. So I just wanted to ensure that what's being included is tangible personal property or taxable property or services. So I would like the state to address that just for some assurance.
Good morning, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. The department has Melissa Gardner on to be able to answer those questions. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Melissa Gardner, Audit Manager for the Department of Taxation. Commissioner Rigby, in reference to your question with regard to cpap.com, a large amount of, cpap.com's total sales are reported as exempt. I would approximately 80 to 90% are exempt. And the taxpayer does sell other items that wouldn't necessarily be durable medical equipment. So could be, other sleep related items, but not durable medical equipment.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I always wonder if they're clear on what the distinction is. It sounds like they are. And with that, I would move to approve item 3B1 cpap.com waiver.
Commissioner Bursey seconds.
Got a motion by Commissioner Rigby, seconded by Commissioner Bursey. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's see, Director Young, item D1.
Good morning, Melanie Young, Executive Director. I would like to allow Commissioner Littman to ask her questions, and the department has Lizette Arceo available. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. This is a matter that cycled before the commission from a prior meeting. And I just want to make sure that the state of Nevada is properly secured. And I know that the documentation indicates that there was not a personal lien placed because taxpayer is trying to buy a home. I think the date, if my recollection is correct, I think the date of the request not to put the lien was in August. So quite a bit of time has passed, and this is a almost $5 million deficiency that a company, a marijuana company, is asking the state to effectively finance without interest for 4 years. And I can say without hesitation that Nevada voters voted for the marijuana tax and legalizing marijuana because of the tax, because of the monies going to schools. And as we all know, we're in the middle of a pandemic that has devastated the state of Nevada's cash flow from the Department of Taxation. And I can say without hesitation that all of us are suffering a hardship. There are certainly at my workplace, everyone has a pay cut, and they're trying to avoid layoffs as we are throughout the state. But this is a enormous sum that could certainly support a lot of schools. So I just want to make sure that this is properly secured and that the taxpayer understands 9% interest on almost $5 million is a significant amount of cash flow that we are agreeing not to receive. So this really should not have happened. This was a business decision made by a publicly traded company to transfer some product from one pocket to another. And they filed tax returns fairly early in their history. I think they started in July. Then in November, they started filing tax returns without making payments to the state. And so this is just not consistent with the way the taxpayers have asked us, residents, citizens of the state have asked us to manage these businesses.
Good morning. For the record, Lisette Arceo for the department. I do have the taxpayers on the phone as well. And just to clarify a couple of questions or a couple of comments that you just made, Commissioner Lemon. The state is properly secured as far as the entity lien. One of the things that I did find out, because I had some conversations with CCB, the Cannabis Compliance Board, and with regarding the license. And if they owe any money to the state or any government entity, and they decide to sell the license, it is written in their statute, or in their regulations, that they have to, whatever new business takes over, they would have to take on that debt as well. So that, is another way that the department is being secured. If anything happens with the license, the department will receive payment. The second is regarding the penalties and interest. The department hasn't agreed to any reduction. So the interest is continuing to accrue based on the tax that's left. So
thank you for that. That's that's comforting. I thought the interest was just through the end of January. So it's continuing. So the amount is continuing to grow?
Correct. The interest is based on the amount of tax that's owed at that beginning of the month. The spreadsheet that you have, and I do apologize, I didn't provide an updated spreadsheet. That's just the interest calculated through the end of January. So yes, interest is going to continue to accrue and add. At the end, once they have a successful payment plan or the tax is paid in full, taxpayer does have the option to submit a request for penalty and interest waiver. And of course, because of the amount, it would be presented to the commission for consideration at that time as well.
Thank you for that clarification. That actually gives me some comfort. What about the individual security, the lien on the taxpayer?
We have not filed that yet, with the understanding that once the taxpayer does purchase a home, the department can file the lien. We do have waivers of limitations signed. I want to say I included those. If not, I'll have to request them again if I don't have them. I don't think I included those. And that was my oversight. I will get those. We're well within the statute of limitations to file the liens. Personal liens can be filed up to 4 years from the time the debt was established. And I will obtain the security waivers. Not security waivers, excuse me.
Thank you very much. So the taxpayers on the line, have you purchased your home yet? Because we're anxious to put that lien on.
I'm the director of compliance. The one who signed the personal guarantee was the chief operating officer at that time, and now she's the executive vice president. She is in the process of it right now. I will confirm with her and get back to Lizette as soon as it's done to let her know that we're all good. But I have Leslie Miller, our attorney, on the phone as well. And I also wanted to reassure you, because I know you've really been following up with our company. And I want you to know that we have gone through a major management change, major restructuring. We're restructuring debt. There are no longer any defaults. And our plan is only to get better and better. And our goal is to actually pay more than the $100,000 per month. But we don't want to overpromise and then fall behind. And we're continuing to make our monthly payments. There's also the amnesty period right now where Lizette has made us very aware of it. We're trying to pay ahead. And by May, we're hoping we're even a better position. So we do appreciate you following up, and I understand all of your concerns. And I completely agree. It was a major mistake made by prior management. And we hope to never make a mistake like this again, and to look good in your eyes and show you that we're here to do our best.
Okay, so Ms. Arceo, thank you for those clarifications. And if we can just be on, shouldn't take 9 months to buy a house. Takes that long to make a baby. So let's buy a house and get this lien filed.
It's the COVID period, and we're cannabis employed. So it's a little bit harder to get a loan for the house, the mortgage. So that has been the delay, but I will confirm with her and I'll get back to Lizette shortly.
Yeah, let's get that filed. And with that, thank you. I know the department has worked very hard, especially Ms. Arceo, who is certainly phenomenal. And I appreciate that you understand how critical this is to Nevadans. It's really important to all of us. So with that commentary and your commitment to do everything you can to get this money back to our school children in Nevada, I am fine with making a motion to approve the consent calendar item 3D1.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Wren. I have a quick follow-up question in the first place.
Could I get a second to that motion, and then we'll open it to questions, please?
Commissioner Bursey seconds, but I'd like to ask Commissioner Lippman if she wishes to condition the approval on getting the signatures on the waiver of limitations.
Oh, yes. I thought those were already, were those obtained and just not in the file? That was my understanding.
For the record, Lizette Arceo for the department. I remember her signing them. I remember Ms. Salpe signing them, but I don't have them in my file. Doesn't mean I don't have them in a different file. So I'll have to double check. But I can certainly get those for you if I don't have them. Because
yeah, whatever you guys need, I'll make sure it gets signed.
I don't have them.
So my sense is we already have them. If not, we need to get them signed. And so thank you for that, Commissioner Bursey.
Okay, Commissioner Wren, did you have a comment?
I had a question. First of all, I wanted to thank Commissioner Lippman for pulling that. I had it pulled on my calendar also. And part of my question was answered. My concern is, what are safeguards if they sell the property? And they stated that if they sold the property, the buyer would take on that debt. I'm not sure I'm real happy with that. I would much rather see, if this property sold, that debt be paid. It's a big debt. For them to say, hey, give us a bunch of money for this license and take on this debt, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Can I speak? We don't plan on selling or going anywhere. I know it's a concern, but our whole goal is to only get stronger and better, and we don't plan on going anywhere. So I don't know if that reassures you at all, but I think Ms. Arceo means if somebody takes over our cannabis license, they would have to pay all of our debts in order to reopen and operate. And I know there's a lot of penalties on our side if we stop and we don't cooperate with Department of Taxation and they report us to the CCB, and our license could be suspended within 30 days and we wouldn't be able to operate. So I know we're put up against a lot of walls if we don't cooperate with Department of Taxation. And we fully intend on cooperating, and we're not going to miss any payments.
Okay, thank you. Can I have the state address that too, please?
For the record, Lizette Arceo for the department. So there's two parts to it, Commissioner Wren. there's the Cannabis Compliance Board part of it, which is the licensing. So of course, anything attached to that license, they have to pay. So if there's enough funds to pay for any of the debts owed to the state, then the state would be entitled to those funds. Then there's the department side, which is the successor liability statute, that if any business sells any portion of its business, they have to, one, get a certificate of amount due from the department, and depending on the sale of that business, how much, if it covers the debt for the department, all that money, again, is remitted to the state. As far as personal property, initially when the payment plan was signed, Ms. Salpe did not have, I ran a LexisNexis search and I couldn't find any property. So there was no property at that time to attach it to. So we wouldn't really, if she sold, there was nothing there as far as LexisNexis, and that search is for all 50 states. If she does have property now and we file a lien, if she sells that property, whether it's a house, whether it's business property, anything like that, then again, the department would be entitled to some form of payment if there's money, there's excess funds.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wren, I was somewhat comforted by the 9% interest rate. So that is a motivating factor.
I agree, but like you indicated, this is a lot of money that the state needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Lippman, seconded by Commissioner Bursey, to approve the payment plan request for item 3D1, CN, I don't know how to say that, license 01 Inc. DBA Flower One. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that item is approved. Next item, Commissioner Lippman, is item 3F3, Jose Martinez Hernandez. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. And so speaking of successor liability, this is a case where the taxpayer owned a restaurant and he did sell it. And there's $40,000 that he was owed. And apparently, I'm not exactly sure what happened to that $40,000. We were trying to intervene and collect it to pay the tax liability, but it appears that it hadn't been paid. And so I'm just wondering if we have a claim against, or the taxpayer is a claim against the buyer.
Good morning. This is Adrienne Roberts-Larson for the record. You are correct. The business, we were told some years ago that it was sold. The department did look into and attempt to pursue successor liability. However, the lack of documentation that we were able to obtain prevented us from being able to successfully pursue successor liability. We did not get any funds from the alleged purchaser of the business. Between this, what we have come to know as a handshake deal, they did not go through escrow and follow those channels as well. So the only recourse for us that we have is to go after Mr. Martinez Hernandez and pursue him for collections on this particular debt.
Yeah, so this is an example of, while successor liability in theory gives us some confidence, in practice, it often can fall through. So thank you for that explanation. I was afraid that was the answer, but I will go ahead and approve or file a motion to approve consent calendar item 3F3. Jose Martinez Hernandez, approval of his offer in compromise.
Mr. Bursey seconds.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Lippman, seconded by Commissioner Bursey. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that offer and compromise is approved. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the Division of Local Services, Executive Director Young.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the record. Moving on to agenda item 4 for the Division of Local Government Services. Item A, which is the discussion and consideration for granting the waiver to remain on guaranteed status for supplemental city-county relief tax pursuant to NRS 377.057, subsection 2. We have 3 items under this agenda, which is number 1, Lander County, number 2, White Pine County, and number 3, Pershing County. And what I would like to ask, Chairman, is if you would be willing to hear all 3 items together, or do you want them individually?
I think we can hear all 3 of them in conjunction. Thank you. Do you mind leading that conversation, though?
Yes, again, thank you, Melanie Young, for the record. The Department of Taxation has employee Kevin Williams, who would be able to present all 3 items. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning. This is Kevin Williams, Department of Taxation for the record. After the department's annual review of supplemental city-county relief tax collections and distributions within our guaranteed counties in accordance with NRS 377.057, it was determined that 3 counties met or exceeded a statutorily set 10% percentage difference between collections and distributions that would make them eligible for removal from guaranteed status. Those counties are Lander, Pershing, and White Pine. Analysis indicated that Lander County's collection exceeded their distributions by approximately 50%. Pershing County's collections exceeded their distributions by approximately 30%. And White Pine County's collections exceeded their distributions by approximately 47%. All 3 counties were notified by the department that they would be removed from guaranteed status unless they requested a waiver to remain on guaranteed status from the Tax Commission. All 3 counties have requested a waiver. Lander and White Pine County have indicated that they would have representatives available to the commission today, while Pershing County has elected to submit their request and not attend this morning's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a representative from Lander County on the line?
Yes, good morning, Commission. This is Bert Ramos representing Lander County.
Mr. Ramos, would you mind spelling your name for the public record, please?
It is BERTRAMOS.
Okay, and then go ahead and make your presentation, please.
Yes, so it's my understanding that last year we were granted this status and we'd like to remain on the guaranteed status as we were previously. It's a cost savings to larger and small counties alike. And we feel that it's good for the whole state in general.
Are there any questions of Mr. Ramos at this time?
Commissioner Rigby, Mr. Ramos, in looking at the revenue stream, sales and use tax, and specifically the supplemental city-county relief tax that was presented, it doesn't appear that there are enormous changes month to month. It looks pretty steady over the last 2 years. And I was just, part of what you need to address in your presentation is that you don't believe that this level of expenditure is going to be ongoing and over a long term. And it appears very stable. Perhaps the industry stabilized in that area, but I just wanted to understand why you would think that you're having unusual sales taxes that are not going to continue.
Yes, Commissioner Rigby, I appreciate the question. So with the mining and the net proceeds, as you guys have, I'm not sure if you're aware of some of the things that are before the Assembly right now that are going forward on possible tax changes on how net proceeds are received. And with the price of gold going up and down based on a number of other factors, We're fortunate to have been consistent the last couple of years. But if you looked at a wider spectrum, there's been times where years ago the gold prices went from roughly $300 all the way to 2,000, as we're seeing roughly today. I think we're around 1,800 and something. And we've stayed consistently there the last couple of years, but we don't foresee that being an ongoing stance. There's no fixed price for gold, and with the possible changes coming forward from how net proceeds are distributed, we really feel strongly now more than ever that these could change.
Okay, I appreciate that. I do have a question for Mr. Williams, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just taking a look at the presentation that was provided. I just am open Pershing County, but it doesn't matter. They all have similar documentation. I'm looking at your colored chart on page 7. And it appears as though if I look at the key, the red would be the out-of-state portion of Pershing collections. The blue would be the in-state portion, or I guess sales tax versus use tax at this point. And then there's a green area. So it's a little bit misleading. I think what that green area should be blue. The total at the very top line is correct, but the way this is appearing, it appears that the level for the in-state, out-of-state, and then there's a green level that gives the total, but it's actually the blue plus the red should hit that line where the total is. There shouldn't be a green area, if that makes sense to you. Other than that, I do understand that the mining industry is in a little bit of a state of flux right now with the legislative session going on, and so it's correct. We're going to have some impacts from that are hard to anticipate right now. So at this point, I would agree that the waivers are warranted. Am I calling it the right thing? To remain on guaranteed status. I still would like to know what investments are being done when at this point, Lander County's in good shape. The mining industry has been blowing and going just as though there were no coronavirus, except for some companies that have underground shafts and they can only have a few people in a shaft at a time. So it has impacted some underground mining, but not in Lander County. So you do have record high gold prices and good revenues coming in. And I am interested in how you're investing in diversifying the economy so that you're not dependent on the mining industry solely.
Mr. Ramos, can you address that one?
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second to get unmuted there. So currently is what Lander County is looking at is we're trying to get some rail system and some other things in here to generate some more economy for our community and our county. It's just been difficult and a slow process. We don't have, Elko has been very fortunate as far as they've been able to really build a base and grow. Lander County hasn't been in the same boat as them. So we're trying to get a little bit more industry here within the county to help sustain us if the mines were to go away.
That sounds like a great idea. Thank you for that. And so I'm in understanding with Lander County. I didn't really get an answer from Kevin, but would like to hear from the other counties the same question. In what ways, are they expecting their revenue stream to be volatile, and then what are they doing at this point where they've got some record revenues coming in to invest in diversification of their economy?
Is there a representative from White Pine County on the phone?
This is Tina. If there is a representative on the telephone from White Pine County, please dial *9 to raise your hand. Yes, there is. Just one moment.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Francis, Finance Director with White Pine County.
Elizabeth, could you spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Certainly, Elizabeth, Elizabeth, and Francis, Frances.
So I'm hoping you heard Commissioner Rigby's question. How are you diversifying your economy in White Pine County for the future?
Well, currently, we did get the hemp farm that came in. One of our concerns is that they are requesting through the Governor's Office of Economic Development for some incentives, which will reduce our sales tax. But another thing that we're working on is a stored energy project here in White Pine County. And so we have been working with a company that is proposing to do a couple $2 billion project here in the county. We are working with the state water engineer to go ahead and work on the water rights they'll need for that stored energy project. We're working with BLM as a cooperating agency to assist the company to go ahead and get the permitting necessary. This is going to take some time because anytime there's the federal lands involved, it's usually a 3 to 5 year process, but this will be a 100-year project. And during a 5-year construction period, it's estimated that there will be 300 to 500 jobs coming in, and long-term operation will support 20 to 25 full-time employees. Estimated capital investment is $2.2 billion. So this is one of the major projects we're working on to diversify our economy, because the purpose of a stored energy project is to stabilize the grid as we move to green energy throughout the state. We are also looking at other ways to go ahead and hit our tour and rec income, and by developing, working to develop trail systems that would help with people coming to visit the area, improving our parks, and working on other developments that will bring the tourist dollar into White Pine County in a stronger way. We were very happy to hear that they're considering repairing the dam here at Cave Lake State Park, because that is a big tourist draw for us as well. I hope that answers the question, and
exceptionally well, Ms. Francis, thank you. You know, I think the rest of the state would like to watch your growth and your success rate. I'm excited for you. Obviously, you know, trying to remove people from the waiver status is kind of our goal here over time, to diversify your economies away from that waiver status. So thank you so much for what you're doing and what you're about to do. I'm excited for you. Any questions of Ms. Francis or Mr. Williams? Okay. Tina, I believe that nobody from the Pershing County office is available. Is that correct?
Not that I know of, but I'll ask just in case. If anybody from Pershing County is on the telephone, please dial *9.
It looks like Renee Childs.
Just one. There are a couple people with their hands raised. Just one moment.
Thank you.
Where did it go? Phone number ending in 408. Are you calling from Pershing County?
Yes, I am. My name is Reen Childs.
Would you spell that, please, for the record?
Rene, and the last name is Childs.
Morning, Ms. Childs. Did you happen to hear Commissioner Rigby's question on how you're diversifying your economy?
Yes, I did. And here in Pershing County, we do a lot of mining and the net proceeds too, but we do have a couple other prospective projects coming in to help our revenue stream. And one of that is a proposed salmon farm to be located and built in Pershing County. And then the second thing is the possibility of a data center also being located in our county. So both of those new businesses would help our revenue stream quite a bit.
Thank you, Ms. Childs. Are there any questions of Ms. Childs or Mr. Williams by any of the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Wren.
Commissioner Wren, go ahead.
Probably more of a statement than a question. Having been an appraiser for a zillion years, appraising all these counties, I can assure you all these counties, plus several others, have been trying to diversify for years. And it just isn't always happening. I mean, Elko's in a very specific location that has been good for them. But, when you get into Lander County and White Pine and Pershing, and what it sounds like what they're doing is great, but some of this is still speculative. So having said that, I'm saying that because I'm in favor of retaining the guarantee status at this point.
Okay. Is that a motion, Commissioner Wren?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Rigby, I would second that motion.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on any of these three items under 4A, 1, 2, and 3? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye to approve the granting of the waiver status for Lander County, White Pine County, and Pershing County.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Director Young, next item.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. Moving onto the next agenda item, which is the review and consideration for approval of the assessor's handbook of rural building cost for 22-23, as authorized under NAC 361.128 subsection A. And the department has Cheryl Erskine available. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Tax Commission. My name is Cheryl Erskine. I'm the Coordinator of Assessment Standards for the Local Government Services Division. I'm appearing before you today to seek your approval of the 2022-2023 Manual of Rural Building Costs, which is updated and presented by our office on an annual basis. County assessors are required to use standards adopted by the Tax Commission when valuing property in the state of Nevada. As part of those standards, NAC 361.128 specifically provides for a manual of rural building costs used for the valuation of agricultural type buildings and improvements like barns, equipment sheds, bunkhouses, corrals, etc. Most costs in the manual of rural building costs are derived from the current Marshall and Swift commercial manual. For items not listed in the Marshall and Swift manual, costs are obtained from farm and ranch store websites by using a competitive shopping method from various vendors. As noted in the Marshall and Swift manual, section 99, page 1, under amateur workmanship, all costs in this manual are based on professional laborers supervised by a contractor or job foreman. For amateur workmanship or work done by farm or ranch help, costs should be decreased to reflect the proper wage rate and lack of contractor and architectural supervision relative to the quality of the work. Marshall and Swift recommends an adjustment of 15% to 30% be made. Based on this, Local Government Services recommends a 25% adjustment be made for farm labor when appropriate. Esmeralda, Eureka, and Humboldt counties were given opportunities to review and comment. Local Government Services also analyzed the costs in comparison to last year and noted an average 6% change. We request approval of the Manual of Rural Building Costs as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Erskine. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Witt. I have a question. And first, I'd like to just say I appreciate all the work that goes into trying to assist all of our appraisers at all the different counties as far as what goes on with agriculture. I think we have a ever decreasing percent of our population that's in agriculture, and yet we all continue to eat. When I go through the manual, what I usually do is look at what you guys have said that you changed. I have one question on my agenda. It's page 50 of 95, and it deals with vacuum pumps in dairy barns.
Yes.
So my question, it says 8 to 20 stalls with 3-phase electric motors per cow stall, $644. So if I was an appraiser and I was going to a dairy, I guess what I'd be looking for is a little bit more detail. The vacuum pump is the heart of a dairy barn. You can't milk cows without suction, yet it typically only takes one vacuum pump. Usually you'll have to have a secondary pump as backup because you have to milk regardless of failures of, you don't have time to fix things. So if I had a 10 stall barn, would I be assessing value there of $6,440? Is that how that description is working?
Yes, sir, I believe it is. Yes.
So the reason for that question is if we go down a little further in the list, we have milk transfer lines, and you are appraised by the foot of the transfer lines. That's page 51 of 95. And there you have different gauges according to how big your pipeline is. And your cost per lineal foot varies from $875 all the way up to $24.26. Pretty much nobody's doing glass lines anymore. So I guess the reason for my question is that it seems to me that if I had a barn, I think you might be double assessing, because the vacuum pump is attached to the milk transfer line. So I guess it's more of a suggestion because I was a dairy farmer and so I'm familiar with this stuff. I don't know that any of our folks working at assessors' offices would really know if this is accurate. And I just don't want to see anyone assess more than what they should be.
I will definitely take a look at that in a little bit more detail so that I am aware of that and I can get an answer back to you, or how would you like me to handle that?
I think that would be awesome. I mean, it just, it's kind of a nitpicky thing, but it's something that I looked at, thought about. And the only other comment I have, and something that everyone should probably want to write down, a stone in the index of different items. A stone weighs 14 pounds. And I think that's a pretty cool thing to have in there. So with that, I would move to approve the rural building manual.
Commissioner Rigby, I would move to second the motion, but also wanted to comment that really appreciate the executive summary that helps us to understand what the changes are without having to compare to a prior manual and identify them on our own. I really appreciate that. And I second.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Erskine. I would totally agree. That does help us a ton, and I would cheerlead that continuation of that process. So thank you for doing that for me, and thank you, Commissioner Witt, for letting me know a stone weighs 14 pounds. That's extremely valuable information. So thank you so much, my friend. I've got a motion and second to approve the Assessor's Handbook of Rural Building Costs for 22-23. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Very good. Thank you, everyone. Director Young.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the review and consideration for approval of exemption as authorized under NRS 361.068 subsection 2, where administrative costs exceed revenue from tax on personal property for application for fiscal years 2021-22 period. That is, the department has Kelson Powell available. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Powell.
Good morning. Kelson Powell, Department of Taxation, for the record. Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, each year the department collects information from the assessors related to their cost to collect personal property taxes. The collective results have been provided for you this morning. The cost to collect an individual tax bill in all the counties ranges from 91 cents to $17.67. The mean total cost of an individual tax bill is $6.22, a slight decrease from the prior year of $6.85. The median total cost of an individual tax bill is $6.68, a slight decrease from the prior year of $6.76. 4 counties have costs to collect that exceed $12. Based on the survey responses, the department's analysis, and the resulting median and mean cost, the department recommends that personal property bills of $10 or less be exempted from taxation. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions of Mr. Powell?
This is Commissioner Witt. I just have one question. There's quite a variation in the cost of collection. And I was just pondering myself, trying to understand why there would be such a significant difference between the counties. Is there any one item that tends to stand out as to why the cost is significantly higher in some areas than others?
Kelson Powell for the record. I'm not quite sure if there's any one specific reason why the cost would vary so greatly. Some companies outsource this to a third party. Different employees take care of this process, so that may affect the wages that are charged. But
Mr. Powell, I think we lost your audio.
Kelson Powell, for the record, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. My apologies. What I was saying was that I'm not quite sure if there's any one specific factor that would vary per the counties. Some of the counties do outsource this to a third party, and there's a number of different variations. I'm not quite sure if I have one specific reason why the cost would vary so greatly.
I appreciate your input. You kind of hit a nail on the head for me, is that we're finding, with businesses all the time, that outsourcing some specific items can really save a lot of money. And so, just something for all the different counties to think about. It's always nice to keep more of what you're trying to make. With that, I would move to approve the review and consideration of exemptions. That would be item 4.3.
Commissioner Lippman, second the motion.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Witt, seconded by Commissioner Lippman. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, very good. Director Young, Compliance Division 5A.
Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. Moving on to the next agenda item for the Compliance Division. The first item under this topic is the taxpayer's appeal of the department's decision to deny the taxpayer's request for a late file petition for hearing. This taxpayer is Performance Coating, Paint, and Body in the Department of Taxation, has George Ritz available. Thank you.
Okay, Tina, do we have a representative from Performance Coating and Body on the line?
Yes, Mr. Michael Shula is on the line, and I'll unmute him just one moment. Mr. Shula, you can unmute your phone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Shula. Do you mind stating your name and spelling it for the record? And this is your appeal, so go ahead and make your presentation after that, please.
Okay. Michael Shula, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, last name Shula, S-C-H-U-L-A. Okay, so late petition file. The question is why it took me so long, or what is it? What is the question?
This is your appeal. The department has denied your request for a late file petition. Why don't you give me, we've read all of the documentation that's associated with this case. Is there, a short presentation that you'd like to make to tell me why?
Yeah, basically from day one, I've been wanting somebody to actually hear my case. When I first presented some of the information, it was a little bit unorganized because my paperwork needed to be unorganized for the taxation department. In the meantime, I've actually, over the course of the last 3 years, I've made 54 emails to 4 different people, and I've been in contact with George Ritz quite often. I've made my statements to him. From what I understand, the first audit, they only took 1 month, and they exponentially did it for like 3 years and came up with a number that I completely disagreed. And then I had a second audit that was done where they took off about 10 grand. But I had 23 boxes of information, of which I conformed everything into 2 boxes. And when I was meeting with Lori Hayner, I believe that's her name, I was told that she wasn't going to look at any of the evidence that I had, that she only wanted me to have it specifically for the couple of months that I was to put everything and have it organized. I was told that if I didn't have the exact invoice associated to that file, that I wasn't going to get credit for it. And then I made notes in each one of the files. I wanted to go ahead and be there when she went through. So if she had any questions, I could actually talk about the business, because my business was actually done a little bit differently than a lot of the auto body shops. I was primarily focused on service and not so much on parts and labor aspect of it. So there were some different changes in there. So after I've gotten everything together, I still got all my different vendors. I have all my taxes that have been paid, every item, because what I did after the first 3 years of the business, it was too difficult to have everything organized since I did so many different things in our business. So I made sure that all the items, all the materials, all the parts that came into the business were paid with the taxes. I had to go back to the different vendors, which was the actual suppliers, and tell them to go ahead and start charging me taxes, because it made it easier for me to do my taxes at the end of the year for family. The reason I bring that up is because my mother-in-law is, they own the property where the taxation department is. So I have to make sure that all my taxes are done correctly for family. And so to do that, I always have to make sure that my numbers are correct. So when you guys came up with the configuration, I went ahead and pulled out my taxes from 2013, 14, and 15, And the numbers that you guys actually provided don't add up to the actual income that I have and the payments for the parts. I did $73,000 in parts. And if you take the 20% and times it by the percentage, I come up with numbers that are about 1/10 of what you guys come up with. So I went back and did all my homework through all my taxes. All my taxes have been audited. They're all itemized. And I just wanted to present my case so that I could have a real number that I think is accurate. And that's what I've been fighting for the past 3 years. The late petitions that were late, it was difficult because I didn't know who I was supposed to be communicating with at the taxation department. There was about 3 different gals that I would talk to. And from day one, I said, look, I'd like to go through all my months and so I can have an accurate number, because I said, if you just give me like a summary, I said, it's not going to come close. So in my defense, that's what I've been fighting for 3 years. I've been wanting to just bring the numbers that are correct, and I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about that. Right?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shula. Mr. Ritz, do you have a comment or a rebuttal?
Can you unmute?
You're unmuted.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, Commissioner Duvall. George Ritz, for the record, last name is H-R-I-T-Z, management analyst for the department. In this scenario, I'm just going over the time of the timing of the petition being filed and the hearing request being filed. As far as the audit was conducted, I did not look at I don't conduct the audit, the auditors do. So I tried to step back and keep that separate. And my responsibilities here are to track the petitions, the audits that come in, the petitions, the hearing requests through the whole due process. One thing though, I am looking at one of the schedules or the audit schedule, the revised one. So in an auditor will go in and we're looking at a 36-month period. 3 months were selected, and they're usually selected at random. And in this case, one of the periods was July of 2013, October of 2014, and then October of 2015. So as an auditor that's working on a revised audit, they're going to focus on those 3 months, because those 3 months are what they're going to create, what's going to be used to create the error rate, and then applied to the rest of the audit period. So, just to highlight, the audit was conducted for the periods April 2013 through March of 2016, and was billed on June of 2016 with the due date of August of 2016. The petition was received July of 2017, making it 11 months late. And then the order regarding petition for redetermination was mailed out on October of 2018 and due on November 11th, 2018, and was received just over a year after that. In looking at these, we're looking at what constitutes good cause, and not getting the documentation or being able to talk to the department doesn't constitute good cause. I'm looking for an explanation of why it wasn't filed timely, not the lack of documentation or understanding. So if you have any questions for me, please ask.
Okay. Are there any questions of the department or the taxpayer? Commissioner Brown.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, thank you very much. I would just point out that I think the department's been eminently reasonable in this case. On 3 separate occasions, the department did grant a late filing. In some instances, they were severely late. So the department has been reasonable with this taxpayer, and this would be the 4th late petition that they would be granting. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Can I say something? Mike, can I say something?
Any other questions from any of the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Rigby. I do believe that there have been many late file petitions granted, and at some point we have to have finality and move on. There are many taxpayers. And at this point, I would suggest that Mr. Shula perhaps consider an offer in compromise. But at this point, there needs to be some finality, and I would, I'm inclined to make a motion to deny the taxpayer's request for a late file petition.
Commissioner Rigby, before you do that, I believe the taxpayer was attempting to respond. Mr. Shula, do you have something additional to add?
Yeah, I do, because sometimes when you start off with the late file petition the first time, it runs through the whole process. So they sent the first request to the to my old business, which I didn't really have that great of a relationship with the gentleman that purchased the business. So I didn't even receive any mail the first time. It wasn't until somebody actually came to my door and talked to me, and we got a chance to talk about the whole, what the process was supposed to be. She's the one who actually told me to contact George Ritz and file the petition. So she helped me. She was here in person at my home. So then I contacted George, and you can ask George. George and I have had a lot of interaction. I'm the one who contacted him. He didn't have to come find me. I actually made sure that he got my emails, he got my letters. And when a letter didn't show up, I always did a follow-up phone call, and I think he can vouch for that. But I've been on this the whole time. I'm adamant about the fact that what they're trying to charge me is absolutely unacceptable. And so I've been fighting this the whole time. And I think that I should deserve to be heard. That's what I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shula. I think part of the problem is with 3 previous approvals for late file petition, your track record is poor, to be kind. I think Commissioner Rigby has a good suggestion. I think filing an offer in compromise with the department. I would concentrate on July, October, the 3 months that were audited there, and come up with a game plan and provide an offer and compromise. We need to call this to a halt, is basically what we're saying. So at the end of the day, filing an offer and compromise, you'll get your hearing in front of someone and make your case, make your best case, but don't show up with boxes and boxes and boxes. Show up with the 3 months. Could I finish? I apologize.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But showing up with boxes and boxes that are unorganized is not going to help your case. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking offer and compromise, focus on those 3 months, and then you'll get your fair hearing. I promise you. I think the state wants to move on, and it sounds like you definitely want to move on. So why don't we do that? Let's move on.
Okay.
So, with that, can I hear a motion on this topic?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Rigby. I would move to deny the taxpayer's request for late filed petition in the case of performance coating and paint.
Commissioner Lippman seconds the motion. And I also want the taxpayer to know that the taxpayer has the burden of accurately filing and computing their liability. The department doesn't have that burden. And so it's critical that he have done that years ago, literally. And he shifted the burden and is now disputing it and has never done that timely. And so I think a denial is appropriate in this matter.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Rigby and seconded by Commissioner Lippman to deny the taxpayer's request for a late file petition. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Thank you, Mr. Shula. And if Director Young, if you could have the appropriate member of the staff reach out to Mr. Shula and help him with that offer and compromise, I think all of us would appreciate that. Okay, let's see. We've been at it for quite a bit here. Is everybody okay pressing forward, or does anyone need a 5-10 minute break? Speak now. Okay, we'll press on. Director Young.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. The next agenda item, which is the petition for reconsideration of the department's denial of an exemption status for organizations created for religious, charitable, and educational purposes pursuant to NRS 372.3261, was Educators of America Incorporated. That item has been withdrawn. So we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the taxpayer's appeal of the administrative law judge's decision pursuant to NRS 360.245 and NAC 360.175. The taxpayer is Soboka LLC, doing business as Cafe Berlin. The department has, from the Attorney General's office, Louis Soka available, and the taxpayer is also available. Thank you.
Okay, and Tina, it looks like someone from Cafe Berlin is on the phone. Could you make sure that they're unmuted, please?
Yes, Mr. Richard Valari is on the telephone. Mr. Valari, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Would you mind stating your name again and spelling it for the record, please?
Sure. For the record, my name is Richard Valari, R-I-C-H-A-R-D. Valari spelled V as in Victor, A-L-L-A-R-I.
Okay, this is your appeal of an administrative law judge's decision. Go ahead and make your case, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Again, for the record, my name is Richard Valari. I'm a certified public accountant licensed in Nevada. I will prove to you quickly that the ALJ's decision is incorrect. My appeal to the commission is not a dispute or an interpretation of a law or reg. My appeal is focused on the ALJ's decision to not consider that gross sales reported in federal 1099-K documents for my client are inclusive of sales tax and tips as they operate a restaurant. The sole issue in dispute regarding the ALJ's decision is, did my client report any cash sales generated from their restaurants in the Nevada Department of Taxation during the audit period? Mr. Zoka's statement on page 5 of the department's answering brief in support of the AHL decision sums up the fallacy of her decision. In sum, the petitioners filed returns reported less sales than the business credit card sales as per its merchant processing company's annual filings. There is no way its filed Nevada sales tax returns reported any cash sales. And I want to place an emphasis on the word any. There are 3 flaws in the ALJ's decision I would like to bring to the commission's attention. First, on page 5 of the decision, the ALJ presents a table comparing 1099-Ks to reported taxable gross receipts to the department for the sample months to show that 1099-Ks are greater than taxable sales reported to the department, and therefore no cash sales were reported by my client. The ALJ states the gross receipts report on the Nevada return should represent all the business sales for that period, meaning both cash and credit sales. Despite this, for each of these months, taxpayers' credit card sales were more than its total monthly sales as reflected in its Nevada sales tax returns. Taxpayer cannot explain where the numbers in its Nevada sales tax returns came from and provided no explanation for why its credit card sales, as reported on the 1099-Ks, were more than total sales reported to the department. This statement is false and inaccurate. First, with regards to sales tax returns, it was explained that the gross sales figures reported on the sales tax returns come directly from gross sales by revenue class shown in the upper left-hand corner of the monthly POS reports for the sample months. For April of 17, that was page 7, For August of 15, that was Bates 388. And for December of 16, the final sample month was Bates 438. With regards to credit card sales as reported on the 1099-Ks being greater than total sales reports to the department, schedules showing adjusted 1099-Ks for sales tax and tips were first provided to Deputy Attorney Zoka on correspondence dated July 14th, 2019. Those schedules were part of the record at the hearing, Bates 121, Bates 125, and Bates 129. Despite the explanations and schedules provided, the ALJ did not consider adjusting the 1099-Ks for sales tax and tips for comparison purposes. The second flaw I'd like to discuss is on page 8 of the ALJ's decision. Taxpayers' failure to include cash receipts in its reported taxable gross sales occurred throughout the audit period. I want to emphasize throughout. The audit covers the period of December 1st, 2014 through January 31st of 2018. 36 of the 38 months captured in this audit are full calendar years. This allows an opportunity to compare 3 calendar years of sales reported to department to figures reported on 1099-Ks. Again, I wish to emphasize 1099-Ks must be adjusted for sales tax and tips charged. The amount of sales tax to back out is known. The amount of tips used in the calculation is the department's calculated tips figure of 8.09% as documented in the audit findings, Bates 61. Excuse me. When the 1099-Ks are adjusted for sales tax and tips for each year, the results are as follows. For 2015, calendar year 2015, sales reported to the department exceeded 1099-Ks by 18.11%. For 2016, that number is 15.2%, and for 2017, 12.48%. For the sample months, August of 2015, sales reported to the department exceeded 1099-Ks by 14.74%. December of 16 is 13%, and April of 17, 7.4%. Over the 3-year period, the difference between amounts reported to the department by the taxpayer exceeds the adjusted 1099-Ks by $255,294 for gross sales reported. This proves that the ALJ's decision is incorrect, and my client did report cash sales throughout the audit period. The final point I'd like to bring to the Commissioner's attention is on page 10 of the ALJ's decision under the third section conclusion. The ALJ makes an incorrect statement in connection with third-party delivery sales being captured by my client's merchant processor. The ALJ states, but taxpayer admitted its records do not include third-party delivery sales through Uber Eats and Amazon. This directly contradicts taxpayers' argument that the difference in these sums is its cash sales because, while it's logical that total sales would come from cash plus credit cards, since its 1099-Ks did not capture all taxpayer credit card sales, the calculation fails. This analysis is not correct. The argument is the difference between the taxpayer, what the taxpayer reported versus sales captured on the 1099-Ks. Third-party delivery services do not affect these figures. My client admitted that third-party delivery services were not reported. It was a mistake. Therefore, these sales would not be in their sales tax reports. Credit card sales by third-party delivery service are reflected in the merchant reporting of third-party delivery services, not my client. Accordingly, the third-party sales should not have been a factor in the ALJ's analysis. And that proves that this analysis is flawed. That's all I have to present to the commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Valaria. Mr. Soka, do you have a rebuttal?
I do, Your Honor. I realize that Mr. Chairman and members of the commission read these briefs, so I don't want to take too much of your time. The one thing I do want to point out is I think this is very telling. In her determination, the ALJ stated the final determination was understated because the department did not include cash tax were deposited into its business bank account in August 2015 and September 2016. In addition to this, the final determination likely was even further understated given Bechtel's business practice of not depositing proceeds from taxpayers' cash sales into bank account. storing some of the proceeds from cash sales in a personal safe while claiming not to track these sums, and removing cash at will for personal use from the register without documenting these withdrawals. Now, any of us who have worked in a restaurant business for any amount of time, we know that how tips are paid to the employees. Oftentimes, tips that are credit card sales are paid to the employees by way of cash at the end of their shift. So that somehow that the credit card sales should have factored in these tips is not an argument that's consistent with regular business practice of restaurants. Furthermore, the burdens on the taxpayer to show that that was the case, and they did not prove that anywhere at the hearing or in their brief. Furthermore, when you consider the fact that Mr. Villari in his brief complains about the department turning sort of a deaf ear to the taxpayer's arguments, there were repeated meetings with the taxpayer to make sure they understood all the arguments. They looked at all the documents. The department had a meeting before the hearing with the taxpayer. The department had a meeting after the hearing with the taxpayer the representative telephonically to hear out all the arguments, to review all the documents. And that was highly irregular. The way the cash was treated by this business was highly irregular. The fact that the cash is being used as petty cash during the course of a day, and then some of it makes over to the mother's account, is just shows that in fact cash was being not properly treated for business record purposes. The ALJ found that the taxpayer's own records could not be trusted. Again, we go back to this issue of the credit card 1099s. In many cases, the credit card 1099s were more than what the income that the taxpayer reported to the department. And on top of that, the other withdrawal of cash that occurred from the register that the taxpayer himself has admitted at the hearing. So with given all these factors, and I don't want to go over all, including Uber Eats and Amazon, I think the department is more than generous. The deficiency was, each time the deficiency was adjusted downwards. And so I think the determination was proper, and the ALJ is properly found in the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soka. See, Mr. Villari, I'm going to give you a chance to respond quickly, but in your response, you know, one of the things that struck me was the 3% cash deposit sales. And then I don't know where all of these numbers came from, but the fast food 33% number and the dine-in 18% number that we seem to be struggling with. It seems like that's part of the basis of your argument, but it also states somewhere, and I'm sorry, I was looking for it, that there's also minimal foot traffic inside the restaurant, that a lot of it is either walk-in or Uber Eats or things like that. So could you address those issues for me, where it says that you've got minimal foot traffic, and how you argue the dine-in 18% cash number versus the fast food 33% number, which seems significantly different?
For the record, this is Richard Villari. Yeah, I think there's a couple of issues you're confusing. When you talk about the foot traffic, the 33%, 18%, this all came from the hearing where we appealed the department's use of a third-party survey to determine cash sales. I would like to comment on Mr. Zoka's statement. My client is being held guilty of not paying tax because they don't deposit cash sales into their bank account at all times. And that may be so. I mean, a restaurant doesn't always do that. However, my client did report it. The numbers are there. They don't lie. The 1099Ks give us 36 of 38 months where we have a third-party system that reports credit sales. We can compare that to what the client reported. And I'd like to remind the commission, this is a very small restaurant. This is a 15-table restaurant serving specialty food, family prices. It's not a high-end restaurant on the strip. And when you do the math, with gross sales, they were reporting $7,000 a month in cash sales if you average it out over the 36 months where 1099Ks are available. Am I still on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I lost. Okay, so what the department is arguing is that they have a problem with how my client managed this cash because they don't deposit into the bank statement. They're saying it's not reported, and that's just not the case. The numbers do not point to that direction. Simple calculations will show this. To average almost $7,000 a month in cash sales being reported for a 15-table restaurant, every dollar has been reported that's been collected.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Valaria. Are there any questions of any of the commissioners?
Chairman DeVol, this is Tina. Guy Childers has his hand raised. He's from the Department of Taxation.
Okay, Mr. Childers. He's still on mute, Tina.
Can you hear me? This is Guy Childers for the department.
Yes, do you mind spelling your last name for the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My last name is Childers. That's Childers, and I'm the audit manager in the Las Vegas office. I just wanted to respond to a lot of what's been said, Mr. Soska and Mr. Valari. The department in the initial audit tried to determine what was the basis of their taxable sales because everything they do is taxable. So we had to do some checks, and one of the things we check is we determined from their credit card sales and their deposit, their cash sales, expecting those to equal what they reported to the department. Unfortunately, we were unable to do that in the initial audit because of the unique way the taxpayer was handling their books. And so in the midst of the hearing, the ALJ thought that based on what the taxpayer had presented, that our methodology was not correct. However, she also felt that cash sales were underreported. So the department went back, looked at everything, and Mr. Valari touched upon the fact that in our calculations, the department did not subtract tips from the credit cards. And Mr. Soska already kind of commented on it as to why that is because we had minimal or almost no cash deposits into the taxpayer's bank account, their business bank account. And Mr. Valari is correct. Taxpayers are not required to deposit cash into their bank accounts. There's nothing in statute that says that. However, they are supposed to report their sales correctly, cash or credit. And when we were doing the calculations, because of the hearing and the testimony, we had to default to the taxpayer's bank account and Ms. Bechtol's bank account because testimony stated that cash was being diverted to not only her bank account, but also actually to a safe of some type that Ms. Bechtol had. So, but we went by the documents that we had. And the reason we did not reduce the credit card by the tips is because of what Mr. Soska has already pointed out, that almost always, and I can't say 100% because there may be taxpayers out there, I have not run into them, and I have been, with the department 17 years and have reviewed hundreds of restaurant audits, and I haven't seen it yet where tips are not paid out in cash at the end of the night. So because of that, we felt that the tips had already been paid out in the cash, and what was the net of that was the cash that we were seeing in the bank accounts that we had to work with. So when we did tax reduce the credit cards, tax reduce the cash, which actually we're not even sure the tax was there, but we did that as a benefit to the taxpayer. Then we took that compared to what they reported. and there was a deficiency. And that plays into what you have before you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Childers. You know, I think we could probably go back and forth on the amount quite a while here. And this sounds, Mr. Valaria, like a perfect offer and compromise situation where it sounds like you would agree that there's some portion, the Uber Eats portion or some of the cash portions do apply and are taxable. This sounds like you should probably get in a room with really good records and make your case for an offer and compromise and go forward rather than fight over the administrative law judge's decision. Would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Valari?
For the record, Richard Valari, can you hear me? Because I've lost the picture.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'd have to speak to my client, but my client doesn't want to do OIC because even the amount that the department came up as owing in cash sales is still less than the amount of the difference between what was reported in the 1099 case. I noticed Mr. Childers did not mention sales tax being adjusted for 1099 case. And I want to make sure for people who do not have an understanding of what a 1099K captures, if you go to a restaurant and you use your credit card and you put your tip on your credit card, the total charge is going to include sales tax and it's going to include the tip. And you must adjust the gross 1099K for those figures. And we did that. And that's how I arrived at the difference. We are 100% confident that all cash sales have been reported. The numbers don't lie. It's $7,000 a month averaging in cash sales. And it's unfair. This taxpayer has to go through an offer and compromise because the department will not acknowledge that the 1099Ks include sales tax and they did not adjust for that. And the tips are included in there also. When you charge a tip, it's captured and reported on the year-end 1099K. It's completely independent of what the department is saying.
Mr. Valaria, it sounds like you made that same case in front of the administrative law judge. Am I mistaken? And why did the administrative law judge not take that? Maybe that's my big question is you're rehashing the case. We've read, there's 912 pages of documents here, and each one of us have read that document. I guess I'm having a hard time overturning an administrative law judge's decision here because you're rehashing the exact same argument, and I guess I'm not convinced that your records are showing that. Help me out. Is there anything new that you can share with me?
I apologize if I'm not making myself clear, but again, it could just be an error on the accounting side of things by the ALJ where there's no mention of the gross when she compares the numbers. There's no mention that she acknowledges that sales tax and tips are included. That's been our argument. I can't speak for what she did. I can only look at her decision and say, wait a minute, this isn't correct. What about the sales tax and the tips?
Mr. Soka, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I would just like to add that the ALG has properly noted a number of ways that the department's final numbers, in fact, are understating what the actual number should have been. But so the department has shown largesse here relative to this particular taxpayer. I would also note that Mr. Valari earlier argued that the department somehow used other business numbers to come up with this determination. But in fact, the taxpayer's own records have led to the conclusions that were reached, and the ALG has affirmed that. And the other consideration the department has given these numbers, they just verify their homework in terms of looking at other similar businesses, how they compare, in cash sales, how they compare in terms of cost of goods. And when they compared those things, they found that in fact this was well within what should have been found. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Soka. Do any of the other commissioners have any questions of the department or the taxpayer's representative?
I'd like to hear Mr. Childers' response to the CPA's very affirmative contention that the credit card sales are overstated because of including the sales tax?
Commissioner Littman, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Mr. Childers, you're back on mute. I apologize. We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Littman, when we did the initial audit, we did take into consideration the credit card tips that would have been in the credit card merchant statement numbers, which is the 1099K that's been referred to multiple times. But when we did the revised, because of the hearing, the issue is that we needed to use the Ms. Beckdahl's bank statement, where testimony said that that's where a large amount of cash went, and that cash is being deposited, and it's a net number, meaning that any tips, of course, cash tips are already gone because they went that night, but also credit card tips that would have been included in the merchant statement were also gone by way of cash. They were paid out that night because that's the standard operating procedure for nearly, like I said, I can't say 100% because I haven't audited all the restaurants in Nevada yet. But from what I've seen, that's the normal procedure, which means if I had reduced the credit card tips or credit card amounts from the merchant statements, as Mr. Villari would like me to do, by the tips, then I would have double dipped. I would have given credit for the tips twice because they were already gone with the net cash figures that we were working with from the bank account. So we did reduce by the tax for the credit cards, but we did not reduce by the tips. Does that make sense?
Commissioner Littman, you're on
Commissioner
mute.
Littman?
Commissioner Littman, you're on mute.
Yep.
There you go.
Because you reduced the cash sales by those tips.
Well, the taxpayer would have.
Exactly. Got it.
Commissioner.
Yep. Got it. Thank you very much.
That wasn't the question.
Mr. Villari, I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
Yes, Commissioner Littman's question asked about sales tax in the 1099Ks, not tips. We didn't answer the question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm not following Mr. Villari because I believe I just said that we did reduce the credit card amount from the merchant statement by the tips. We did, not the tips, but by the tax. We did not reduce it by the tips. We did sales tax reduce it. Yes, we did.
Thank you.
The tips are on the payroll.
I'm sorry, but can I answer that question?
Yes, please.
During the audit and during the following times, the redetermination, we did ask, because the taxpayer, one or more points did point out that they would have paid tips through their payroll. We asked them to produce documents, proof of that, but at no time did they do so, which would, and like I said before, it would have been out of context, out of normal practice for a restaurant to do that.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the taxpayer or the department staff?
May I say something, please?
Yes, 1 minute.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
My client is here. They said they did provide those records to the department. Just so you understand, I only became involved during the appeals process. I was not involved during the audit, the fieldwork phase of the audit. But they claim that they did provide those records.
Mr. Childers or Mr. Soka, do you have those records?
All the records that taxpayer provided, Your Honor. Go ahead, Mr. Childers.
We were going to say the same thing, Louis, Mr. Soska, that to my knowledge, and I was intimately involved with the handling of this audit and the redeterminations and the revised orders. At no time did we ever see any record of that, ever.
And I don't recall seeing it in the 912 pages that was produced for us either. So, okay, thank you. Any other questions? I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Is there any other questions of the taxpayer or the department at this point?
Can we produce those records since apparently there's a dispute? We have those records.
This is, Mr. Valari, I tell you, this is really on the administrative law judge's decision. You've appealed the decision. It's not whether you can produce new records after the fact now. It's, we've got one item on the agenda. It's not whether I can go back and do that. So, again, my recommendation is an offer and compromise and go back and work with the department on this rather than attempting to settle a case that's already been through an administrative law judge. You've had your chance to produce those records. And, if you fail to do so, I can't help that, but I don't want to retry the case. That's what we use administrative law judges for, is that. And I don't believe, in my view, that you've convinced me that you've produced all of the records to show me that that case is wrong. So with that, is there a motion to approve or deny the taxpayer's appeal of the administrative law judge?
Commissioner Lippman moves to deny the taxpayer's appeal of the administrative law judge's decision pursuant to NRS 360.245 and NAC 360.175.
Commissioner Witt, second.
Got a motion and second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any commissioner opposed? Okay, we've denied the taxpayer's appeal. Mr. Valaria, thank you. I would encourage you again to work with the department. Let's see, we've been at it for about 2 hours. We've only got a couple of items left on the agenda. Would everybody be okay going forward or take a break? Go forward. Okay. At this point, we've got item D1, 5D1. And again, I have a conflict of interest, so I will turn the meeting over to Commissioner Bursey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I'm going to turn it over to Director Young to introduce the item.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director, for the record. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is the department's appeal of the administrative law judge's decision pursuant to NRS 360.245 and NAC 360.175. The taxpayer is Golden Gate Petroleum of Nevada, LLC, doing business as Linger Smoke Shop. The department has the Attorney General's office, Hillary Bunker, available, and the taxpayer is also available online. Thank you.
Before turning this over to Ms. Bunker so that she can present the department's appeal, I'd like to ask the representatives from Golden Gate Petroleum to state their names and spell their names for the record. Is there more than one of you?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Barely.
Oh, how about now?
A little better.
Okay. Randy Shores with Golden Gate Petroleum, RANDYSHORES.
And Mr. Shores, are you the only representative?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, it's the department's appeal, and the representative from the Attorney General's office is Hillary Bunker. So Ms. Bunker?
Good morning. This is Hillary Bunker from the Attorney General's office, and we are here today on behalf of the department to appeal part of the ALJ's decision in Golden Gate Petroleum. The brief backstory to this is that Golden Gate Petroleum had purchased tobacco products. They held a tobacco retail license, and they had purchased tobacco products from an entity out of state that did not hold a wholesale license and did not remit taxes to the department for the sale of these products to Golden Gate. So the department's investigators went out to perform an inspection in 2020, found that the retailer was selling products that had been purchased illegally from an entity that did not hold a license, and also that no taxes had been paid on. So these products were seized. At the hearing, the ALJ upheld the seizure, saying that the department properly seized these contraband tobacco products because they were purchased tax unpaid and they were purchased from an entity that did not hold a license. However, the ALJ also directed the department to allow Golden Gate as the retailer to return these products back to the out-of-state company that they had purchased them from. And that out-of-state company is Midwest Goods. So the department is in agreement that the seizure was proper, but is appealing the decision to allow tax unpaid product that was purchased from an entity that was unlicensed to be returned to that illegal actor. We think that the ALJ did not have the authority to allow that product to be shipped back out of state, and moreover, it sets an incredibly bad precedent to send this product back to someone that sold it into the state illegally, that has not obtained a license and did not pay taxes on it and did not file returns. That it's a bad precedent to give this product back simply because it was captured during a retail inspection.
Thank you, Ms. Bunker. Mr. Shores, do you have comments?
Yes, ma'am. We own and operate several different businesses in multiple states.
Mr. Shores?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm really having a hard time hearing you. Is anyone else? Can you sit closer to your microphone? Turn up your volume?
How about that?
It's a little better.
I'm holding the phone now.
You must be pretty soft-spoken.
Okay. Are we okay now? Can I go?
Yes, just talk as loudly as you can.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I took you off speaker here. So we own and operate many businesses. All of them except for one are gas station C-stores. At all of those other locations, we purchase our tobacco product from one of two vendors, depending on where the locations are at. MTC and Cormark are the name of those vendors. Linger Smoke Shop is a unique location to our company. We purchase tobacco products or other like products from multiple vendors. The vendor in question, Midwest Goods, we have been purchasing from them since we opened Linger in 2018, I believe March of 2018. After the investigation, we learned that in January 2020 that a new law or ordinance, or I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but took effect stating that that vendor would no longer be, we wouldn't be allowed to purchase from them. We did not know that. So again, a vendor that we had used from the beginning, which from everything that I've read in the hearings, it was okay to purchase from them up until January of 2020. So we made our first purchase from them in, I believe it was October or November of 2020. And then, soon after we received that order, a couple weeks, something like that, Gina Reynolds from the Department of Taxation came in, asked for our records. We provided it. We found out that we can no longer use this vendor. I spoke with Ms. Reynolds on the phone a few different times. She was very helpful, explained everything to us, signed me up to receive communication from the Department of Taxation, provided me with a list of authorized wholesalers that we can use, which, I didn't have before. So again, thank you for that. And again, this was an isolated incident. We do understand, the tax laws would apply to all of our locations, but again, our other locations where, 99% of our business is at, this, I don't want to say it's not a factor, but we purchase from one person. So, and that is a large company, we purchase from, again, Cormark or MTC. So that's where the confusion happened.
Ms. Bunker, do you have a reply to that?
I would just reiterate that really the department's issue on appeal here is that product that was tax unpaid and purchased illegally, that would be permitted to be sent back out of state to the company that sold it in. The department believes that under NRS Chapter 370, it has the authority to handle disposition of seized product. So because the ALJ upheld the seizure, that is the property of the department, they have certain things that they can do with it, but it is within their authority to determine what they're going to do with the product. It is not the authority of the ALJ to direct the department to return contraband tobacco product to someone who doesn't hold a license and acted illegally.
This is Commissioner Wren. Commissioner Bursi, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bunker, to the question at hand, were they able to purchase this merchandise legally before 2020? Had they done that prior to 2020 and then the law changed? Is that correct?
Hillary Bunker, it's my understanding that they had purchased from Midwest Goods prior to 2020. And then when the law changed, which required taxation of vapor products, that would have been the triggering date. So it is my understanding that they purchased before 2020 and then in 2020 after that law had changed.
Legally?
Prior to 2020, if the products were purchased, correct, they were not taxed as excise.
Okay. And then my other question is, where is this product? It was seized. The state still has it?
Hillary Bunker, I'll defer to the tax department as to whether it's in their possession or whether it was seized on site and if it's been left with the retailer.
Is there someone from the tax department available?
Yes, Melanie Young, Executive Director. The department has staff available, and it looks like we have.
I believe Joe, oh, sorry.
Jody Tonkin is available.
Jody Tonkin, your phone is now unmuted.
I'm forgetting what the question was. Is there someone who can help us from the department?
Yeah, if Jody Tonkin is not available, we should have Jolynn Smith, who should be able to chime in here.
And I can re-ask the question if you need me to.
Where'd she go?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? This is Jody.
Yes.
Okay. For the record, my name is Jody Tonkin. I am a tax program supervisor in the excise division. The product that we seized is currently with the department.
Okay. But then, thank you, Commissioner Bursey. That answers my question. I guess I'm just kind of concerned that I understand the state's argument that maybe the law judge didn't have the right to do that. But if it was a misunderstanding of product that had been bought legally, it changed, that everybody didn't understand, it just kind of makes sense if this is a good taxpayer to, no fault, send the product back, let them, buy the product, which I'm sure they've already done from somebody else, and get on down the road. So I would make a motion to deny the department's appeal.
Commissioner Bursey?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Rigby. I have a few questions and some thoughts, if I may.
I'm happy to let you go ahead, Commissioner Rigby. Is there a second to the motion?
Commissioner Witt, second the motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second, and now discussion, Commissioner Rigby.
I would like to ask the state if there's a difference in the product that was on the invoice and the product that was seized. In other words, was there a product that was sold ex tax that the state is pursuing for taxes? Does the state, in other words, have nexus over Midwest goods in order to pursue any sort of consequences against Midwest goods?
For the record, this is Jody Tonkin. At this time, the state, it is our procedure to issue a cease and desist letter to any entities who are located out of the state who we find are selling into our state without a license. In addition to that, we can also issue civil penalties. At this point in time, we have reached out to the unlicensed entity out of state, and they have told us that they are going to become licensed. But as far as doing a deficiency in the tax, we would have to first obtain all of the sales invoices into our state, which is something that we're also working on. So once we get all of that information, the department will determine how to proceed forward.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question for Mr. Shores.
Yes.
If the product is returned to Midwest Goods, are you going to be getting your money back that you had paid for it?
We hope so. I mean, there has been quite a bit of time since this first happened. I apologize, I don't remember the exact date. I believe November. At the time, the judge's hearing, I did reach out to them. They did say that they would issue a credit. Part of the hearing also said that we would have to get with the Department of Taxation and go down and identify what shipping carrier would be used. So I went down to the Department of Taxation in Reno, met with Gina Reynolds. She allowed me to measure the box and weigh it. And then, they created a shipping label for us. Now, the shipping company, again, that we had to tell the department about was FedEx. I recently saw something that FedEx no longer will deliver nicotine devices, which I'll have to get clarification. I take that to mean, the vape mods. I don't know that for certain, but I did get that communication. So now I'm a little, concerned on how to get that back. And again, if that is the case, then we would not be able to use that shipping company, which we were required to provide that information to the department. So that would change, but that's not under our control. And
okay,
again,
but it's It sounds like if you're able to find a shipper and return that product, you'll get either a refund or credit towards a future purchase, and then the state is working with Midwest Goods to get them registered so that they can sell into Nevada properly and collect the other tobacco products tax. So my thought is this: haven't you, Mr. Shores, at the company, you've received a fine of about $2,000? 60-day suspension?
That is being proposed, yes, ma'am.
Okay, they're proposing a fine, a 60-day suspension. So there's consequences for you. But as to Midwest Goods, if the product isn't returned and they create a credit, they actually benefit by having the state destroy the product. This is just an additional penalty on you, and Midwest Goods, the sale goes through and they've benefited from it. So if we uphold the administrative law judge's decision, return these goods, and they lose the sale, they, in other words, credit you as though they had not made that sale, that actually gives them at least some sort of penalty for selling contraband without the tax. So I'm in agreement that I'm hoping that this makes you square, at least on that sale, assuming most of that product was seized and not already sold within Nevada, that you'll be able to recoup some of the money that you've been out because the product was seized. I agree that it was properly seized, and that there was miscommunication internally that I think is now straightened out. Looks like things are going correct forward. But in my opinion, I think that the state does have discretion to dispose of it or other under NRS 370, 415, 4B, dispose of it as it sees fit. And so I believe that the administrative law judge's decision was proper, as long as it allows you to at least get some sort of a credit or you get some chunk of flesh out of Midwest Goods for that. So and anyway, those are my questions that I've had, and you've answered that. I do hope that there is a credit, but I would be in agreement with the motion that's on the table.
Thank you.
It doesn't sound like the motion would need to be amended, Commissioner Rigby, to incorporate.
No, I don't think so.
I have a question, Commissioner Bursey, Commissioner Lipton. Yep. So what typically happens with contraband that's seized? What does the state typically do with it?
For the record, this is Jody Tonkin with the department. The state does actually just that. We destroy the product using necessary vendors. The product is just destroyed.
Great. So in that case, then Golden Gate Petroleum would still owe a liability to the vendor. So is that correct, Mr. Shore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or any other discussion?
Yeah, Commissioner Bursey, this is Commissioner Brown. I do have one question.
Yes.
And I think it's for the state. I was confused in the material. I thought it said in there at one point that Midwest held a Nevada license. And in another part of the case, I thought I read that they never held a Nevada license. And I'm wondering if Ms. Bunker might be able to clarify that.
Sure, Hillary Bunker for the record, and that's correct. There was confusion in the ALJ decision referring back to the hearing testimony that the taxpayers representative had said they were unaware Midwest Goods no longer held a license, but Midwest Goods has never held a license in the state of Nevada and still currently does not hold a license.
Thank you for the clarification.
Are there any other questions, commissioners? Well, Commissioner Wren moved, and I believe Commissioner Witt seconded that the department's appeal of the hearing officer's decision in Golden Gate Petroleum of Nevada's case be denied. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Commissioner Lippman opposes.
Is there any abstention?
Yes, Chairman DeVold abstains. Thank you.
The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bursey. Next item on the agenda is informational items. Director Young.
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the record. Moving on to the informational items. These items are the penalty and interest waivers granted by the department for sales and use tax, modified business tax, and excise tax, as well as the approval and denial status report log for organizations created for religious, charitable, or educational purposes. And if there are no questions, I will move on to the briefing.
Go ahead and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the briefing today. What I'd like to share is the department has been very busy this legislative session. On January 27th, we presented our budget overview to the legislative session budget subcommittee. On February 4th, we presented an all tax type to the Joint Committee on Assembly Revenue and Senate Revenue and Economic Development. Then on February 9th, we introduced AB 9, which allows the department to disclose certain confidential information to the Governor's Finance Office for revenue projection purposes. And then on February 25th, we introduced SB 25, which repeals language relating to the determination of whether food for human consumption is subject to sales and use tax. By repealing this language, it is no longer relevant. The department, since the department joined streamlined sales tax, this will allow the department to clarify information on this matter to taxpayers. On February 26th, again, we presented our budget to the Joint Committee of Senate Revenue and Economic Development. No, we actually, it wasn't Senate Revenue, it was Assembly Ways and Means and Senate Finance on General Government is where we presented on February 26th our budget. And then on March 2nd, we introduced SB 74, which revises the provisions where population is used for certain distribution purposes. This bill is a housekeeping bill that cleans up language that aligns with how the department is processing those tax distributions. Over the past 2 years, the executive team has been working on reviewing our internal processes, and this review is large in part so that we could become more efficient and modernize the department. With that being said, a while back, we asked our internal auditor to audit some of our processes and found that the department never used the census populations required for the distributions since the enactment of that language was in 1999. This removes the language for utilizing the Census Bureau populations, as the department has not used those numbers in the distribution process. And we've always used the state demographer certified population numbers. Currently, the department is tracking 155 BDRs and bills that could potentially have an impact to the department. And as a COVID update, we have reopened to the public, but by appointment only. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Young. Any questions? Okay, very good. Our next meeting is May the 3rd of this year. I'm hoping that we can be back in person at some point before the end of the year. So thank you to all of you, number one, for your patience with the internet and its unreliability, and I totally appreciate it. And same to the staff, Director Young, if you could pass that along. You know, I know how difficult this is, and we sincerely appreciate all the effort that goes into these. So thank you so much. Okay, at this point, is there any public comment, Tina? And Tina, I had someone, Ronald Voigt. Is he on the telephone by chance?
I'm not sure. I will check right now.
Okay.
Anybody on the telephone that would like to provide public comment, please dial *9. We have Michael Shula raising his hand from Performance Coding. Just
yeah.
one moment.
Yes, Mr. Schuler. Could you again state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Yes, Michael Schula, MICHAEL SCHULA.
Thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead. You've got 3
I
minutes.
am,
Public
I am
comment.
unclear where I'm at right now. If maybe you could just give me some insight of what I'm supposed to do next.
Director Young, would you have someone contact Mr. Shula and assist him with that, please?
Yes, Melanie Young, Executive Director. For the record, I will do that. Thank you.
Mr. Shula, does the department have your contact information?
Yes.
Okay, don't give it to me in a public meeting, obviously. Yes, contact the department and we'll get you going.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
This is Tina. I do not see any other public comments.
Okay, very good. Are there any other items for future agendas?
Oh, I'm sorry. One person is raising their hand now. Just one moment.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Chloe with Saywin Inc. And we were on the agenda for today. Were some of the items just not addressed today?
No, Say One Inc. was in the consent agenda item. And
okay, right.
We discussed it was actually approved by consent.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I apologize you stayed on the line for all of this.
It was interesting though. I have a lot of notes here and questions. So, all right, thank you. And then I guess we'll contact someone at your office to see what we're to do next to get our refund.
Yes, contact your representative at the Department of Taxation that you've been dealing with.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Tina, any other public comment?
No, I do not see any other public comment.
Okay, sounds good. Director Young, I don't know, maybe there's a better way to make sure that people aren't wasting 2 hours of time. Maybe we'll talk about that offline and see if there's a better way for us to make sure that, maybe what I do is just read off the names of the people that have been approved. And that way, if they don't have the agenda in front of them, they can understand that their item has been approved. So anyway, all right. With that, everyone, have a good rest of your week and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.